at the federal and state level, that's essentially the name of the game right now. These are tough times, and we should be out there pushing hard and arm twisting to try to get reduction, because we can't expect our employees to who have legal contracts to us, in a sense. We can't expect them to have the rules change on them in the middle of the process without making an effort for those who benefit from having contracts with us, being at least urged very strongly to be good team players, because, you know, there's work down the line, down the road, and we'll look favorably in good times upon you if you help us out in bad times. You know how this works.
Certainly.
So I'm just saying that to simply allow a whole slew of funds that we expend, and there are plenty of them, on other agencies and other subsidiaries and various contracts, to allow that just to be out there. We know we can't do anything legally, but we can at least ask them for a favor and maybe give them an offer that they can't refuse. And I think that's the kind of thing that, if you're looking to have a good working relationship with the county a few years down the line, maybe you would want to help build that relationship now in hard times. I don't have to argue that we go out and bust contracts.
I will put it on our budget leadership team meeting for this week, and we'll have that discussion. I think there's probably more money to be had. There's some contracts that at this point in time it may be necessary just to terminate because of the services they offer. So I think we can be more cost effective. Certainly we will try and negotiate wherever we can, but I think there's some contracts, again, as we look at and we question the programs that are out there that we'll continue to offer, we might be able to get you some greater savings by just terminating those services. Kristen, I don't know if you have any comments you'd like to offer for this discussion.
Kristen McMinamy, GSA Director. I would just suggest that maybe with our process with the CEO's office and the fact that General Services Agency does keep track of all contracts with the county, no matter what the dollar amount is, that we either add to the form a little box where we ask the department head to sign it saying, have you asked this contractor for a voluntary reduction? And then that gets reviewed at the CEO's office.
I think when you're in the position of writing the checks, you have a little stronger leverage than to just ask them for a voluntary reduction. I think it can be used a little more leveraging than that when you're the person that's writing them the
personally,
check.
I will be, but I can't speak on behalf of other department heads. But
yeah. Tom, you still had your. Go ahead.
Yes, as I said. Kristen does not have the responsibility for all contracts. We'll talk about it tomorrow night at our budget leadership team. We meet once a week. We talk about these issues with all county department heads, and certainly we can come up with a strategy on how we can effectively reduce some contracts completely off the list, and then others that we might be able to make contact and look for some cost savings.
A couple that brings to my mind is LAFCO contract. In the promotional line contract, they're pretty, I mean, I look at the LAFCO and I don't see much going on as far as, so I wonder how much, why are we still paying that still that same level of contribution cost to LAFCO when the work of LAFCO is probably at a bare minimum in this county right now?
As far as LAFCO goes, LAFCO, they set a budget every year, and their budget is based upon their anticipated expenses. The only place you might be able to make some adjustments is, I've seen it done where they have sufficient reserves, and you can ask LAFCO to dip into their reserves rather than giving them additional funding. A lot of that depends on how are they doing with fulfilling their statutory requirements with the various plans that need to be done. They haven't made a great deal of progress over the years, so I don't know if that would be a wise choice to make, but certainly your board, through your representatives to LAFCO, has the ability to ask them to take a look at their reserves, see if they can afford to take less from both the cities and the counties and the other agencies in this year.
My point is, when the function of our building and planning department is way down, the functions of LAFCO and their annexations and whatnot is way down too. anyways, that's just a.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that LAFCO is probably several years behind in completing its spheres of influence that really need to be done, and I think they were required by law to be done probably almost 2 years ago, and those are still not completed for the entire county. So I think that's a concern because it will hold up in some cases annexation agreements and other important issues for the county if those sphere of influences are not properly done. So I don't think it's an agency at this point. You would probably be better served to encourage them to complete the work more quickly than to reduce their funding. But we understand your point, and
But it is a general fund contribution.
it is
we make to that.
not only for the counties but also for the cities and the
exactly.
special districts. They all make a contribution to fund LAFCO.
Supervisor McCowan?
I'll concur with Chief Executive Officer Mitchell, and LAFCO does have a prudent reserve, but they also have a lot of responsibilities. They're currently mandated to assist in the completion of all of the municipal service reviews, which are actually a precursor to setting spheres of influence, and so they do have a lot of work ahead of them, and their budget will be under discussion at their next meeting, the first Monday in April at 10 a.m. And and they, as I understand it, have not increased what they are charging the county and the other entities, so they're at least holding steady on what the charge is.
Okay. Allison, you want to proceed with this in a timely fashion?
I'm hearing that, and I think the way this could be most timely is you let me kind of crank up and go all the way through it. My suggestion, yes. Yeah, I can do it fast, but what I would suggest is when there's a topic area that you're interested in discussing, that you just kind of asterisk it on your sheet, and then once I'm done, you come back and you say, okay, these are the items we'd like to discuss. Okay? So that's, if we can do that, then.
I think it's better if the board members want to stop and go, let's take it as we move forward. If there's questions or something, board comments, I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. That way, it's more it's less confusing that way for the audience and whatnot if we take it as a.
There's 42 slides.
Well,
Can't we read this and put it off till the next meeting when we've had a chance to digest it after not having spent the whole day arguing pointlessly on another matter? Can we just read this and come back and and proceed and get into the business of the day? I mean, I'm quite serious. I mean, we don't have to be
okay,
read
what about we do
Well,
this as
I wasn't planning on reading it. I want to be real clear.
What if, we have an opportunity on the Monday afternoon, March 16th, to proceed with this then? Yes. And that's committee meetings. We only have one committee scheduled for the business at 1:30, so we could actually have this workshop discussion on Monday morning, March 16th, if we didn't want to do that now. Supervisor Smith said before the break that we wanted to come back and do this today. Now Supervisor Colfax is saying we don't want to do it today, so I need a little direction here from my colleagues.
I don't want to do it today.
Oh, okay.
I don't speak for anybody else.
Okay, so what's the consensus here real quickly?
Well,
That's the third time we've had Allison got up here, so let's either move
It's okay.
forward or stop.
It's good
We're
exercise.
wearing her out.
it might be helpful to have the very quick run through and not even focusing on every slide, but just
I can do that.
the bare bones, full speed presentation, because, we've got another curveball here
Okay.
because this is a different presentation than we had last week.
Okay, please move forward then, Allison.
Okay.
Sorry, David.
So, this is inaugurating the 2009-2010 budget. The first several slides talk about facing towards fiscal year 2009, and it says what this presentation is supposed to do. And it's reviewing budget guidelines, which we'll see later, establishing priorities, which is what the board will be doing, and framing that budget by providing direction on potential fees and potential re-engineering opportunities. So, there's a series of slides that talk about involving policymakers. You all are the policymakers. And so what these slides talk about is how we are interacting with